So this is Eduardo. It's August the 15th here at Cougar Hot Springs. And I'm talking to, what's your name?
I'm Chris Turner.
Can you speak up just a little bit?
Yes.
Chris Turner.
Chris Turner. And Eduardo and I met yesterday here at this parking lot around this time.
Can you take your sunglasses off? Thank you very much.
You think so? I'd rather leave them on.
Yeah, okay.
I'd rather leave them on. I'm going to be squinting the whole time.
That's good.
That light's
That's good.
going to be in my eyes. And
So,
yeah.
where are you from? Where were you born?
Well, I'm from the East Coast. I'm from near Philadelphia, Camden, New Jersey. Born in 1958 and raised mostly on the East Coast.
All right.
And there's a hummingbird.
You have brothers and sisters?
I do. They're scattered, somewhat estranged.
How many brothers and how many siblings do you have?
I got 4 siblings, man. 3 of them are older than me. So when I was like 5 years old, and I just remember the Kennedy assassination, I remember my next older brother going and standing in line getting the first Beatles album to come out. So
wow.
For having them older siblings, I caught a lot of the 60s I would have missed.
Wow.
So I'm kind of like right on the very tail end of the whole 60s thing. I just remember Kennedy getting killed and the Beatles coming out and Hard Day's Night coming out, yeah.
Were your parents together when you kids were raised?
Yeah, they were. I came from a pretty standard. They had a little bit of problem. My dad cheated on my mom. She started taking to drinking. But I figured now I see things in perspective. I weigh things out. I did real damn good.
Are they still together?
They're both deceased.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how old are you?
I'm 57.
57.
Yeah.
All right. And tell me a little bit about your growing up. Like
Well, because my daddy's job was related to like things he did in shipyards, like blueprints. He'd get transferred. He'd go to open the office. He was good at what he did. So he moved sometime and come back on weekends. Other times he'd be gone for months at a time, but sometimes we'd actually move with family. So subsequently I lived in Maine, I lived in Virginia, I lived in Maryland, lived in Florida. And then when I was 16, they all got a contract, this company did, to go down to New Orleans. So here I am, moved from Philadelphia, Jersey, East Coast to New Orleans when I'm 16 with older siblings. And boy, did we dive right into that when we got there.
Yeah, you took to that culture?
Oh, yeah. And by and by, that contract ended, they left. My siblings, some kind of stayed a while, but I ended up staying there out of all the brothers and sisters and actually living there, going to college there at UNO and LSU Baton Rouge back in 78, 80, meeting all kind of cool people who are still my friends. Right. In Louisiana, rocks. New Orleans rocks. Yeah. And no place like New Orleans, Louisiana. And so it wasn't until about 81 I ran into a brother. It was kind of a group house, a lot of artists and shit I knew. Rented this big old house with a lot of apartments in it. And one of those brothers, even an activist, he told me about the Rainbow family. He was the first one who told me about it.
You were how old?
23.
Okay.
So I was already I had already done my share of hitchhiking and going to some festivals, but I'd never heard of this, and it sounded exactly like right up my alley. And it was in Washington State that year. So I heard about it, I think, in April. Of course, that's about 2-3 months before the gathering, but I did make it to it, my first gathering. And that's how I found out about it. But it was about the 10th, 11th gathering, the 10th gathering in 81, so it was a little bit late on early family, but it was still all made up. Back in them days, it was still all early family, and all the old timers, a lot of them deceased and scattered now. They were all still, they were just in their 40s and 50s and shit.
So tell me a little bit about your experience of your first rainbow gathering.
Right. Well, just getting there was crazy because me and my brother Tom, who's my oldest brother, he had a meth problem. I just got him out of prison after 5 years of being in Angola. I got him out the crack of midnight. He needed something to do. I said, let's go to this festival. We hitchhiked all the way to Philadelphia, seen relatives, and then hitchhiked all the way from Philadelphia and we got right close. We hopped the train in Minot, North Dakota, and it took us all the way to Spokane, Washington. And it was a flatbed that was carrying all these backs of container freights, like the backs of big freight trucks you see on the highway, like trailers. The whole thing was made of that. So you'd you'd be sitting under a truck up on the train, real windy. And we picked the car we had because it just had a lip on it about that wide around. That was the only protection you had to not roll off. So we set up on that one. We got all the way to Spokane, and all we knew is that the gathering was going to be in Wenatchee, somewhere in the middle of the state. So we're waiting for a train out to Wenatchee. This is, July 81. And we're sitting on a boxcar waiting for some train out that we'd heard about from some brakeman going out in a couple hours, and we seen 2 hippies coming into the train yard. And out of all the trains in that huge-ass train yard, they went over and sat on the very flatbed we'd just ridden 1,000 miles on, see? And I seen them do that. So I thought, this is too weird, I can't ignore this. So I got out of the boxcar, left my brother. I said, hold on. I went over and talked to him. I said, what's up, y'all, blah, blah. And he goes, well, we're going. I said, me and my brother go in the Rainbow Gathering. He goes, well, it's right up the road here. I said, oh, no, it's not. It's in Wenatchee. I had heard about a month ago. He goes, oh, no, bro. It's right up the road here. It's like you're about 60, 80 miles from it. So if I hadn't seen the people get on that very freight car, that very flatbed, I never would have even gone to talk to him because you try to lay low on the highway and shit, you know. And that was kind of like my first taste of seeing the magic of, you know, you couldn't find out how to get to a gathering on the internet in them days. You just kind of got led to it, you know. So we only stayed 3 days. It was my first taste, and the next year I got there June 14th and stayed till July 17th, something. In other words, the next year I made sure I got there early and stayed late. You know?
So what is the gathering like? I mean, so here you are, you arrive at this thing that you'd never been to before.
Right.
What was your experience?
We actually got there on July 4th during the silent meditation. Oddly enough, so there's people telling us to be silent on the way in. So we got there kind of at the apex of it, not really knowing. We camped like right near the main meadow. We didn't have a clue. When we say 3 days. So it took me a while to get my, you know. Next year I got more adept at it, coming years, and so you can't really judge it by the first year. That was the first time. I mean, it was the old days. It was Jesus, Lightning, Amen was still there, setting up crosses, and of course the old Love Israel family was there, and you know, it was like back in them days.
Wow.
Right. Old family. And,
so that's 1981. So by that time you're like 23. You said?
23. Yeah. I started going every year pretty much. I missed a couple. I haven't gone since 96. I went to 12 of them from 81 to 96.
Wow.
Right.
So, okay, so you go to this gathering and then you leave, and what do?
Well, everybody goes back into their whatever they're doing. I mean, you do what you go do, but it's more like where are you going when you leave what you normally do? That's more like the other way around. The question is, why are you going in June to go? Why are you going 1,200 miles or 2,000 miles to go to this place to go camping? You know,
Right.
it's basically a bunch of people camping together. De facto, I mean, that's essentially all it is. Everybody agrees to go camping at the same time in the same place.
Right.
It's just hopefully it's a bunch of nice, happy people with good intention. That's the.
Was that your experience generally?
Yes. Yes, indeed. Yeah, to a high level where, you know, you'd be around. It could be just joyous music around a fire, or you know, just wacky way out drum circles, or you know, you fall in love, or do some really super fresh dose, or you know, see some outstanding scenery, or you know, all kinds of things you end up doing. Talking to children. You
Free
know,
food everywhere.
Free food everywhere, but you contribute in a way. It's not really all free, so to speak. I mean, you do what you do, you know. I've gone hungry at gatherings, boy, in the seed camp days, you know, when you get there early and just walk around for half the day just looking for some half-cooked beans, you know. And
wow.
Yeah, because things were a little early before. And once start people rolling in numbers, the food gets a little bit wider, you know.
So people set up kitchens and serve anybody that comes along, huh?
Yeah, that's what it does. Yeah. I'll tell you, at the last gathering I went to, you know, you always like to have a little ganja. You figure out how, if you don't have any, you got to hustle some up. And I had my food stamps. I was in Missouri in '96, and I went to the local grocery store. And I got $55 worth of steaks, different grades. Cut it all into strips, about the size of a sardine, and I had fishing string and needle and thread. And I threaded it all and dipped. I soaked it overnight in lemon juice and Tabasco sauce. That's all I used. And then I smoked it over some hickory wood the next day under some plastic tarps. Went out the following day and bartered it in a barter circle, and I ended up with, like, you know, nice sack of some good, pretend like a good Mexican, couple other gram or two of this, a gram or two of that, you know, gave a lot away. And it was just it's real witty, the things you run into at Rainbow Gathering. You run into some real witty. I think it really captures not so much the hippie thing of what used to go on as much as the yippie thing. There was that jokester aspect to it. You run into a lot of people with senses of humor who are playing the jokester end of things, you know. Not just being free, but actually having fun being free.
So you say the last gathering you went to was in '96?
It was.
Right?
It was. I haven't gone since '96. Yeah.
Wow. So that's been
20
years.
29
years.
20 years.
20 years.
Yeah. Yeah. 20
Yeah. 19 years. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I stopped going to Mardi Gras. I went to 12 Mardi Gras, 13 or 14 now, and you know, you know.
So how come? What did you? So in '96, you leave this Rainbow Gathering, and then what did you do with your life from there until?
I went back to school. I've been going to graduate school. I study archaeoastronomy in the Hopewell Culture in Ohio, old calendar keeping, 2,000-year-old Indian sites in central Ohio, Chillicothe, Newark, Ohio. It's well known among American archaeology.
Uh-huh.
Certain earthworks line up with other earthworks they built that point to solstice, sunrises, and things like that. It's all straight science, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's not UFO-y stuff.
So how far did you go in in your studies with that?
I actually got thwarted politically because I'd been plagiarized, and it was so much intrigue, and I witnessed all kind of people lying in print about stuff, plagiarizing. I was plagiarized. It's real unethical. Academia is like, it's all for the money. They're money grubbing half-wits, a lot of them, because they leech off people with brilliance. You know, is what they do.
But you were in a master's program, is that right?
I was at Carbondale, Southern Illinois University.
And how far did you go in the
I was
master's?
one class from having the degree, and they kind of nudged me out. You know, one French course. That happens at Carbondale. Carbondale's overbloated with, Illinois in general is overbloated with middle-level bureaucracy.
So now, isn't this around the time of Hurricane Katrina?
It is. Yeah.
And as you were telling me before, you actually left school to go back and help.
I did, and I didn't go to make money. I actually lost money on the deal. Rents went sky high, but I ended up getting to rent, coincidentally, a place I lived 25 years earlier.
Wow.
Yeah, it worked out. You could tell spirit was there, you know. And I get up some mornings though, and I have to go to work at 7 in the morning. And I've been looking at the cityscape, like on that one overpass, the Broad Street overpass, looking over at the Superdome, thinking, why am I fucking here? You know, why did I do this? But then the city was just hard. It just broke your heart to see.
Yeah.
I got there on Christmas Day. I had to wait the semester out. So they had already drained the city twice. After Rita came, they had to drain it again. You know, it was like, but most of the shit was still, everything was broken. There was no lights, holes in the ground everywhere, cars friggin' everywhere. No! I'm sorry.
And you stayed there.
My
for-
dogs
that's all
just
right.
chased a chipmunk. That's what just happened. I explained to the viewer.
There you go.
And but anyway, calm down, please. That's Pappy and Daisy. But yeah.
So you ended up staying in New Orleans for.
I was down there a year and a half. I actually worked in Mississippi. That friend of mine's house I was telling you about over in DeSoto National Forest. I worked there part of the time too. He got flooded out.
Did you ever consider going back and taking just that one last class so you could get your master's degree?
I tried like all get out to leave there with no debt and to drop the classes properly when I withdrew. And I got advice from several departments, and try as I did to try to do it right, they ended up tacking me with a $1,700 bill when I left. They said, well, since you withdrew, like you never went,